Welcome to Echoes After Midnight, where the woods are not empty, the dark is not safe, and you are never alone. This is A Thorne in the Flesh, The Death of Immortality, by Alexander Bainswool. The black panel van hums south through the high desert of the American Southwest, the kind of empty land where the sky felt too big and the road too straight. Elias Thorne kept the driver's window cracked wide, the hot, dry wind whipping across his face like it always did. He never needed much of an excuse anymore. Sam rode shotgun, the big German shepherd's head poked all the way out the window now, ears flapping, tongue lolling, eyes half closed in pure dog bliss. Elias glanced over and allowed himself the smallest twist of a smile. Guess you like the breeze on your face as much as I do, huh, boy? It had been a week and a half since the ogre under the bridge. The ribs were mostly healed, the bruises faded to yellow. Just another scar to add to the collection. They pulled into a dusty second-hand thrift shop on the outskirts of a nowhere town. Elias bought a fresh black fleece button-up and a pair of sturdy cargo pants to replace the ones still stiff with dried ogre blood. Dirty clothes got ditched. It was cleaner that way. No roots. No laundry. No evidence. While he paid cash, the clerk tossed a bright red Kong bone on the counter for free. For the dog, the man said. And Sam's ears shot up the second he said it. He carried the toy in his mouth the whole way back to the van like it was the most precious thing he had ever owned. He did not chew it. He simply possessed it, dropping it on the console and resting his chin beside it like a trophy. They had barely cleared the parking lot when a young mother and her 3 kids came around the corner of the building, laughing and carrying shopping bags. The kids. 2 boys and a little girl no older than 6 spotted Sam and lit up like Christmas lights. "Mommy, look." A big dog. The oldest boy ran straight over. Sam sat politely, tail thumping, letting all 3 children pet him and coo over his soft ears. The mother smiled at first, then her gaze slid to Elias. The smile faltered. She pulled her kids back a half step, one hand instinctively resting on the little girl's shoulder. Some people could just sense it. The danger coiled under his skin. The quiet predator who had carved his way through now 16 humans and more monsters than he could count. She forced a polite nod, murmured something about the dog being friendly, and hurried her family toward their car. Elias watched them go without expression. Sam looked up at him as if to say it was fine. It always was. Back in the van, the road unspooled under the tires. Elias's mind drifted the way it sometimes did on long drives. He thought about the day he had first joined the military. His little sister had been gone for 2 years, taken by that drunk driver whose neck he still wished he had snapped before it happened. Then his mother had vanished. Losing them both had hollowed him out. The military had been the only thing left that made sense. Boot camp had beaten the rage into discipline. The instructors had turned his natural talent for violence into something precise, something deadly. Hand-to-hand, blades, firearms. He had absorbed it all like he was born for it. Brothers in arms had given him the only family he ever really knew. Looking back now, it felt like fate, or simply the will of the old gods. As if those ancient, indifferent powers the Cree elders sometimes spoke of had arranged every step. The losses, the knife, the discharge, the endless road. All of it so he could drift across North America with nothing but a van, a duffel of silver-edged weapons, and a dog, carving the things that hurt the weak. It was as if the universe had made him exactly for this. The thought settled in his chest like cold iron. Meant to happen exactly this way. They stopped for food at a lonely diner in the middle of nowhere, the kind with faded vinyl booths and a ceiling fan that clicked like a dying heartbeat. Elias let Sam come inside this time. The big shepherd padded straight to the corner booth and lay down under the table like he had done it 100 times. When the waitress raised an eyebrow, Elias shrugged. He's a support dog. The diner was mostly empty except for 2 old-timers at the counter and a woman sitting alone in the far corner, nursing coffee and scribbling notes in a battered notebook. She had sharp eyes and a no-nonsense ponytail, the kind of face that looked like it had seen too many late nights chasing stories. One of the old-timers was talking loud enough for the whole room to hear. "I'm telling you, that lab on the edge of town is up to no good. Folks been saying they're testing stuff on homeless people they pick up off the streets. Evil science. Real Frankenstein shit." The woman in the corner looked up, set her pen down, and spoke without being asked. "It's worse than that. I'm Riley Voss. News producer by day, horror writer by night. The lead scientist there is Dr. Harlan Voss. No relation, thank God. Obsessed with immortality. Been working on some kind of serum to cure death itself. I've heard whispers the last few months about missing transients. People who went in for free medical trials and never came out. If even half of it's true, that place is a powder keg." She leaned in, voice dropping. "Scientifically, a real zombie virus isn't impossible. Prion diseases like mad cow can turn the brain into sponge and make people violent. Rabies already rewires the nervous system. Makes hosts aggressive, bites everything in sight, and spreads through saliva. Engineer something that combines the two, maybe adds a retrovirus that keeps the body from decaying while it eats the higher brain functions, and you've got something that looks a lot like the movies. Slow, mindless, hungry. But this serum sounds different. Faster. Meaner." Elias slid out of his booth and crossed the room. He did not waste words. "Tell me more." Riley studied him. Tall, dark, scarred, not really handsome in any way, and something in her eyes shifted. "Sit down, stranger. I'll tell you over coffee. But you buy." He sat. She talked. The serum. The obsession. The rumors of screams heard after midnight. Elias listened the way he always did, ice in his veins, cataloging every detail. The old radio behind the counter crackled to life with a breaking news bulletin. Authorities are investigating a bizarre attack in the county. A man was found eating the face off another victim in an alley. Officers emptied an entire magazine into the suspect. Nothing. It took a headshot to finally put him down. Witnesses are calling it. Well, they're calling it a zombie. We'll have more as this develops. Elias stared at the radio for a long second. "Just when I thought I had seen it all," he muttered. "First an ogre, now this." He finished his coffee, paid for both of theirs, and stood. "I'm checking it out. Tonight." Riley did not hesitate. "I'm coming with you. I need to see this for the story I'm going to write. And something tells me you're the kind of man who finishes what he starts." The lab sat on the very edge of town, which was really the edge of nowhere. A squat concrete building ringed by chain-link fence and razor wire, half the lights burned out, the rest flickering like dying fireflies. Elias parked the van out of sight, left Riley and Sam with his red Kong bone for comfort, and hopped the fence alone. Two shapes exploded from the shadows. Massive Dobermans, eyes milky white, jaws dripping black foam. Zombies. The dogs came fast and silent. Elias drew the bone-handled knife and met the first one mid-leap, driving the silver-edged blade straight through its skull. The second attempted to clamp onto his forearm. He twisted, slammed the dog into the ground, and carved its head off in one brutal stroke. It had been close, but luckily he wasn't bitten. A small mercy. Inside, the front desk looked like a slaughterhouse. Blood painted the walls. Strips of skin hung from the counter like macabre decorations. Human guts lay coiled on the floor in a glistening pile. Elias moved deeper, silent as the Carver he was. The security guard came at him from a side hallway, uniform shredded, intestines hanging out like ropes. The thing still wore its badge. Elias did not hesitate. One clean swing of the knife took the head clean off. It hit the tile with a wet smack. The first scientist was in the break room, still in a lab coat, face half-eaten away. It lunged. Elias carved its throat open deep enough to sever its spine from the front and kept moving. The second scientist was in the hallway, crawling on all fours, moaning. The knife ended it quick. The only room with lights still on was at the end of the corridor. Elias kicked the door open. Dr. Harlan Voss stood in the center of the lab, surrounded by shattered vials and bloody notes. He was no longer human. Super strong, thinking ugly as sin. Skin gray and splitting, veins black under the surface, eyes glowing with hateful intelligence. The Immortality serum had worked in the worst way possible. He was a living, conscious zombie monster. "You," the thing rasped, voice wet and bubbling. "You're too late. I fixed death. I was always supposed to live forever. It is my destiny." Elias raised the knife. "It looks like your destiny just got uglier." The fight was savage. The super zombie was faster and stronger than anything Elias had faced in the lab. It hurled equipment, smashed through steel tables, and laughed while it bled black. Elias used every trick he had learned in the sandbox and on the road. He ducked, slashed, rolled. The bone-handled blade finally found the soft spot under the jaw and drove upward into the brain. The creature convulsed once, eyes wide with the last bitter realization that immortality had been a lie, then dropped. Elias stood over the body, breathing hard. He looked down at the ruined scientist and wondered out loud, Does this count as number 17? He decided it did not. The man had been juiced up with super serum. This was a monster, not a man. Single-handedly stopped a Hollywood-style zombie apocalypse before it even got started. New top score. That made 16 human kills total, not forgetting the motel desk clerk 4 nights ago. The one with the basement full of human heads on plaques, or the poacher who had been skinning hikers and framing Carl the Bigfoot. 16 humans. And still the only thing that ever truly stung was the neighbor's cat he had killed as a boy. He wiped the knife clean and walked out. Riley Voss was waiting outside where he had left her, face pale but eyes shining with the kind of fire only a horror writer could have. She had seen the bodies being dragged out by Elias. She had heard the screams. She had watched the last of the undead fall through the windows. From safety. They were real, she whispered, astonished. Zombies. Actual, friggin' zombies. I'm writing the story of a lifetime. And you and Sam. You saved this whole town from turning into ground zero for the end of the world. She stepped closer, voice softening. Stay. Just for a while. I've got a house with room for both of you. I could use someone like you around. Sam, too. He already stole my heart in that diner. Elias looked at her. At the way she glanced toward the van where Sam waited with his red Kong bone and felt the familiar pull. 2 women in Hollow Ridge had said almost the same thing. I appreciate it, but I never stay anywhere, he said before turning away and heading back to his panel van, back to his dog, the road in mind. He scratched the dog behind the ears when he climbed back in. We never stay anywhere, he said, glancing at Sam. The road's cheaper, cleaner, and there's always another monster waiting. As Elias drove away, both windows cracked, Sam in the passenger seat Kong bone proudly between his paws. Riley stood at the fence and watched the taillights disappear southbound into the night. On the radio farther down the highway, there were reports about isolated incidents at a research facility and urging calm. Elias smiled that small, cold smile and just kept driving. The hunt never ended. It only grew stranger. And now it had a red Kong bone on the console and still a dog riding shotgun, his head in the wind. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe for more echoes after midnight.